There it is. Michael Hladky, welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing very good today. I'm excited, to be honest.
Awesome. What are you excited for?
I'm excited to talk about one of my most favorite aspects on NX. It's like this plugin and tooling and building on top of it. Maybe with a small detour on runtime performance, measurements, end-to-end testing. But in fact, where I like it so much is this building on top of that stack.
Very cool. Well, I am looking forward to it too. I've always loved, the stuff that you've put out. I'm a big fan of reactive programming. I know you are too. So I feel like there's this kinship there. I wanted to throw up on screen here too. This is pushbase.io. Let me grab the URL. I'll throw it into chat here. So, Michael, is this your consultancy here? I saw you are the founder and CEO.
That's the brand, yes. And
Awesome.
we basically focus on a couple of things to improve speed velocity of developers. We do a lot with NX. Being here, I guess it makes sense to start with that. So we have some enterprise consulting. We help people to set it up in the right places, start with the right things, do the not so important things later. And of course, we know how to measure the impact. So that's the cool part of it. We always try to have some metrics and the other sections where we have some services is performance in general, web performance, and then architecture. Some
very cool
under construction things.
Yeah. Well, performance, I guess that's what we'll be talking about a little bit later.
Yes.
But yeah. So I'm actually curious. You mentioned we were doing a lot of NX consulting. So what exactly do you do? Is it kind of like getting a workspace up and started, or?
It depends on what your problems are. We have smaller services, like we run a workshop, or we set up that stuff for you, or we make a small analysis of your status and say what's good or not. But we have also like more enterprise-facing products where we say we have a strategy for you, right? In a series of analysis, we create the perfect roadmap for you. Here a little bit of learning, there a audit. We set you up the tooling. We measure your impact. We generate numbers for you. And NX is perfect. It helps a lot. Therefore, we really specialized also one of the services exactly on that.
Very cool. I don't want to like reveal all your secrets, but could you talk about like maybe some of the metrics that you keep track of? I'd be interested in that. Is it like CI time or?
Yeah, of course. Let's start with the easy stuff. So NX helps us, especially when you use NX Cloud to track how much time it saves at build. But we also have a couple of different techniques how to figure out later things, right? I mean, just turning on NX does not make your software everywhere faster. Of course, there is an initial benefit, local caching and that stuff. But if you really want to do something on a large scale in the CI, you need to understand where to start and what to split and what to merge. These not so easy questions. And we have a couple of things. We have heat maps on codes. Like I saw the post today. We do a couple of similar interesting things. And we also understand how your release is working, right? Do you have a couple of steps in between that is just the issue of a process? And then we apply that in an audit. We write down everything, and then building on top of the audit, we can have a roadmap and implement it, or you just know what to do.
Very cool. Well, yeah, it seems like for a lot of that stuff, NX is a great tool. Like in just the ability to make these tasks depend on each other, and the ability to leverage the project graph. My line is kind of like with NX, you can set up your monorepo, and you end up focusing on the things you should be focused on, which is building your app, and you just kind of let the rest of the stuff scale. So
I have to say it's not it's not only monorepositories. We also use it when we develop a library, right? Any library in our stack is developed with NX just because of the tooling,
right?
And that things. We also have a couple of cool contributors. Eduard Bousson is working on the SEM versioning of plugins. So whenever you release a a package with an X. You most probably know his plugin already. You can also search for that if you like.
Yeah, sure. What was the name of that one?
I guess it's JS Cutlery and then Samware, and it basically automatically bumps your version if you have a package. It does the whole release chain, changelog generation, version bumping, tagging the stuff in your code version in control, and I love it. I use it since a long time.
Very cool. Very cool.
Also, Jonas is in the core team there. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty
I am very familiar with this plugin, so I was confused when you'd first mentioned it, because where my mind was going, like, we've obviously have monorepo.tools, our website here, where we talk about all the different monorepo tools that are available and like the benefits they provide.
Mhm.
But like you were saying, beyond just monorepo tools, I feel like NX has kind of evolved to be a repo tool, mono or not, right?
So what I could see a potential future of NX is like a repo CLI tool, right? Because
Yes.
what I want to show today is how you extend it, and the NX Conf is coming, right? A couple of weeks left. There, I have the pleasure. I'm so excited to give a talk there, and I will show a couple of other things that you can do, like technically hook into the core of NX, how to synchronize repositories in a poly repository. Like some of the ideas are pretty innovative, I would say, pretty different from what people normally start with, and yeah, I'm happy to share that.
That's awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. Let me say hi to everyone in chat, because there's a lot of comments here. Santosh is in the chat.
Santosh, hello.
Santosh is the man.
Yeah, we will see in 4 days.
Yeah. Where are you going to see him?
We have company trip.
Oh, cool.
Pushbase company trip.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I didn't realize that Santosh worked for Pushbase.
Yeah, we tried to work out a couple of interesting things. He's just start to like see where we can generate some cool stuff, especially like open source content. I'm pretty interested in the next time to have good open source collaborations, like contributing to the community and that stuff. And
yeah, very cool. I don't see him on your team yet, Michael.
Yeah, because we just started to plan, man. It's
okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to call you out.
Here.
But cool, that's awesome. I have a lot of respect for you. I have a lot of respect for Santosh. It only makes sense that y'all are working together. So that's awesome. Shelly777, what's up? Welcome, Kat, sir. And you look very distinguished in your tie.
Yeah,
nice tie. Very nice tie. Hello. Evgeny, welcome. I've seen you here before. Nice to see you back again. And Mithura, welcome, sir. But yeah, so I definitely want to get into, some of the other stuff we had mentioned. There's NXConf coming up. I want to see how you're using, like, I don't know what a UFO is. So that's a whole thing that I want to get into. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk just a little bit about reactive programming. So in particular, I have this question for you, and this may be a spicy take. But
I see it coming. I see it coming.
Be as spicy as you want. So I've had this sort of journey when it comes to reactive programming, where when Angular 2 in particular first came out, and I was introduced to RxJS. At the beginning, I thought, okay, there's obviously something very cool here, but I don't want to mess with it. That was like the initial thoughts. And then I went from that to, okay, this is probably what's going to be the future of the web, in particular for front-end development. I've thought that RxJS was the perfect tool for managing all kinds of different events and sequences of events and figuring out how to synchronize them or handle them or compose with them. And I thought for sure it would be the future of the web. And now I'm at a place where I think it's just too complicated for it to have a chance to take off. And be what I thought it would be. If we look at like the npm downloads for RxJS, it's actually really impressive. Like, I don't think people realize how often like RxJS is downloaded. I think it's probably like top 10 of all packages. I'm actually not sure of that, but Let me throw on the screen here. ArcGIS. I think it's like 50 million a week. 43 million a week right now.
Yeah, I'm interested. There is a change in the TC39 standard.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if this one will make it through. It's quite a while since that moved, but let's see if that moves. You can drop the core, and this is just a helper library for
operators, I guess. Really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, should I start, or do you want to like add more?
Add more what? That's all I've got. It's pretty much what's your thoughts on reactive programming? Is RxJS the future? Is it not? Is it going to are more front end devs going to work with it?
Yeah,
etc. So
I believe after fiddling now around quite a while with signals in Angular and minimum experience before with help me Solid. I start to understand the real benefits and that stuff, and there are clear benefits. For example, signals clearly, like the how you can wrap that around a piece of DOM, update it, have like any sort of expression logic very easily given to get starting, right? Imperative API set get is common for us to use. I guess that's the strength of signals, and it is to strongly dedicated to stateful reactivity, right? You have like some sort of values of state of data that you want to track over time, and RxJS as is, like not in a library, just as is, you can do pretty much anything for that. It's more open, right? You can do stateful things like we did with Rx Angular State. You can do event-driven stuff. We have a package Rx Actions. Any other thing that is event-driven has completely different like treatment. You don't want to have an initial button click, right? There is no last button click that you want to replay, because the button click, it happens when it happens, and it is like a completely different concept. I guess in the end, frameworks should wrap the different concepts with whatever inner thing they have, and if they use internally signals for state management, or internally RxJS, or any other more open reactive language for events, that would be the best, and a nice and solid integration. I guess it changes a lot, like from a couple of years now on Angular and RxJS before, already before Angular, I can say you have to like make a nice integration, and then you get everything you can out of it, like all the benefits and all the good stuff. And if you don't really integrate very well, there's friction, and it's not easy to come up with all the glue code on your own. So this is what I guess frameworks should do.
Right.
Which happens at the moment pretty good for signals. Like they do a lot of research, a lot of planning. Should we do this? Should we do that? Do we need it? And yeah, we have bi-weekly meetings with the team, or state management libraries. Pretty interesting discussions. I'm curious what will happen.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm curious as well. We've got here in the chat, Aaron Yeager agrees. Well, he agrees with a younger me that RxJS is the future. So, yeah,
with good integration, it can be like there is very little you need to understand if it is integrated.
Yeah, and like we said, like it's completely valid, I think, given the number of downloads we see here for RxJS, that RxJS is the now. Like it's not like it's not being used. But yeah, and like Santos mentions, native observables are on the future, it looks like. Question here from Mathura was RxJS to come with concept, was RxJS first to come with concept of state management? Like, no, not really, but I don't know. I don't even know if I'd consider RxJS itself state management so much as it is just like event synchronization, or it's like the fulfillment of a callback, maybe even. I don't know. It's a lot of things. It's hard to pin it down exactly what it is, but
yeah, very abstract tool that you can build more concrete things out of it.
Yeah, and in particularly good for push-based architecture because
reactivity, push-based, everything asynchronous, everything you want to parallelize.
Yeah, and like really to get to state management, like it's to Mathura's point, maybe you're not that far, I think, from getting to state management using ArcsJS just out of the box. Like all you need is the scan operator, and you've kind of got this idea of, well, synchronizing your events into one stream, like sort of like an action stream. I think, Michael, you mentioned you had a library around this.
Yeah.
After you have your action stream, it's just a matter of scanning those various actions, those various events into some sort of state object, and you're ready to go from there. So yeah.
Love the explanation.
Yeah. Evgeny, signals are perfect for state representation. Observables are perfect for events and things that require complete state or delayed value. So I'll talk just a little bit about this because I definitely want to get into UFOs and Lighthouse. I'm really interested in this stuff. I don't know that much, but I do want to just mention on signals. I definitely feel like signals and behavior subjects are not that far apart. Like the APIs for these things, and I don't think signals are a silver bullet for like being a reactive primitive, mainly because I think it's not that far from behavior subjects. And in my evolution of working with ArcsJS, I definitely went through stages where I was like, I'm just going to use behavior subjects. I'm not going to mess with operators. I'm just going to imperatively call next on behavior subjects. I'm going to call like get value on those behavior subjects. And that way I can imperatively work with these the same way we do with signals. And once you hit a certain level of complexity with this, it just goes to a complete mess. And that is where, for me, libraries like ArcsJS really shine in terms of giving you ways of sanely composing these events into something manageable. So
definitely.
So yeah, that's my take there.
I also see it as the more general tool, right? You can build both things, event-driven reactivity, stateful reactivity with RxJS. You cannot build event-driven reactivity with signals, but you can, or it is basically stateful things. So no.
Absolutely. All right, let's switch tracks. This was fun. Yeah, and like Evgeny says, signals are not for every kind of reactivity. That's for sure. Exactly. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's a great tool. Like a lot of being a software engineers know the right tool for the job. And sometimes if we have something simple enough, use a wrench. Don't always have to go for like a socket set or something crazy. Sometimes a simpler tool that works better for the job is better to use. But yeah. All right. So Michael, I want to switch tracks now and talk about Lighthouse and performance. Performance is an interesting thing, especially for front-end development, because I feel like so much of the conversation is predicated around like bundle size. When I think performance as a front-end dev, that's kind of where my mind goes. I think so. And when it comes to like measuring this, I guess the tool that I think of when using it is, running Lighthouse. So let me put my screen back up on. We'll just go to like nx.dev and like I'll show you what I do when I'm trying to measure performance. I open up my site. So normally this would be like some port on localhost, but that's all right. I go to inspect, come over here, click this and get to Lighthouse. It's probably super small, so I'll make that a little bit bigger. But then once I'm here, I press the button and I wait for the scores to show up.
Woo!
and normally like what happens is I get some greens, or I'm like, yeah, that's all right. And then I don't think about it again. Ever. So looking at nx.dev, performance 87.
You have video streaming. It heavily impacts this measurement. So if you stream like here with this thing, you can not really rely on that number. But it's that's it. That's what the Lighthouse, like default Lighthouse navigation does. roughly. It shows you some green and orange numbers. Sometimes red,
Sometimes red. For us, we're all orange and green, so that's good.
That's very good, yeah.
We got a gray here, I guess, for PWAs. So progressive web apps, we haven't invested in that for NX.dev. I'm actually surprised this is still a node even here in Lighthouse. So that's interesting. But yeah, do you host your apps? Like if I went to Pushbased, is that a progressive web app? Or
that is you can run it. Let's say.
Do you mind if I run Lighthouse on Pushbased?
Yeah, it should work. It's an Angular stack basically. Angular
Interesting.
Stack with GraphQL and Contentful, and I'm not sure if we do a lot with server-side rendering. It should be server-side rendered also.
Okay, well, let's see.
Yeah, I believe. Let's see.
Let's put it to the test. Sorry, I'm not trying to grill you here, but this is fun. Oh, look at that! You got us beat by a little bit. No progressive web app there though, but 93 for performance. Yeah. That's
I guess mostly because server-side rendering and how we handle SVGs.
Gotcha.
But I mean, you have more, right? You want to click the site and do other stuff than just load it once.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that leads into my question. Like when I think of Lighthouse, and again, this leads into like bundle size. I think essentially is what does it look like? What does this Lighthouse report look like when I hit it on the homepage? But obviously, performance is more than that, right? So
yeah, I would say Lighthouse is more than that.
Interesting.
And even here, what we see now, you have performance, you have accessibility, best practices, you have this search engine optimization score. If you maybe know, you can also write your own Lighthouse plugins. You can write your own tests. And there's a lot of information. There is not only stuff that gives you a number, but also some informative stuff. For example, what is the largest contentful paint on your website? You could scroll down. There is this this report information. So it's really more, right? So
really you're talking about like these kind of metrics.
Numbers, the core metrics is, but you really have like detailed report information. If you go to largest contentful paint, for example, a little bit more down, it's under the images. Yeah, here, somewhere here. I see it already, like 5 down.
Oh, keep going.
Stop, up before accessibility. Here we go, you see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th one from the top. Yes. So this here is just an informative audit. It is identifying the element, not the time, but just the element, informative audits. You can see, in this case, it picked an image as large as contentful paint.
Right. Cool. So it's actually that image right there I can see.
Yeah. So it is a score really based on numbers and metrics, what you see here, but also informative information, like what you can do better. Accessibility is really like mostly informative, right? Yeah. Please put a type on the button or whatever. Please have the tab index sorted. And
yeah, it looks like you got a 99 because it doesn't like your H3 here. I think maybe do you not have an H2 above it? Is that the idea?
Are not in a sequential. This is really sad, and this impacts what my accessibility. Yeah, I would get the last point if I fix that.
Yeah, you could get 100 here.
If Johanna watches, she works a lot on our website. Would be cool if we have a look at that.
Very cool. But yeah, I guess
this is what everybody knows under Lighthouse. This is the first measure when you start your application, when you run Bootstrap, right? And there is more. And let's look at the time. Yeah, let's have a look on 2-3 more new features. I will just use your screen instead of my slide deck, and I would ask you kindly to click on the Recorder tab here.
The Record tab. Yeah. Okay, let's see.
It's a little bit to the left. Yeah.
Got it.
So this is relatively new. You see the small experimental icon, but it is very interesting, and it's actually like the code for it is quite old. I guess 2 years ago I spotted the first open source release on that in the Chrome repository. It helps you to record user interaction and then have the interactions in a very generic way of actions, like click the button with the selector here, wait for that. You can make a JSON structure out of it, basically. You could click create recording here, give it a name.
Sure.
You can say test recording, and then you can click this record button over there, and like the
down
red
here?
one. Yeah. And
Got
here
it.
maybe we scroll down and then we click a link.
Okay.
One of the three, yeah, there's this one, organize a workshop for it. Yeah, perfect. And here you scroll down and you click one more.
Sure. Which one should I click?
I don't care.
Start my journey. I want to start my journey.
Okay, so stop that recording. What you have now is you have in this user interface, I like it, it looks beautiful. You have all the interactions, and if it works, right, you can press the replay button on the right.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, let me make it, and that's going to play in the left-hand side here. Yeah, in the main. So let's try it.
Let's try it. So what you see is it's replaying that a little bit too fast for us to grasp, but you can adjust the speed, and you have this UI. Pretty cool for project managers to like test, is my stuff working? No. What is my user journey, right? And they can click through the user journey, record it, and you can download that recording here as a JSON, and you can send it to me, and I can open it up as a developer and can try to understand what is the user journey. I can replay it. I could even do a performance measurement here. So on the second button next to replay is performance panel. And
okay, should I click on that?
Yeah. So this shows it runs.
I've seen this before.
A performance recording, a flame charts recording. If you scroll more down, you see the main thread, you see all the flame charts, everything, right? So, and you can replay that over and over again. Also pretty cool for performance engineers to share knowledge, right? Also, hey, I have this issue, my tries this, like replay it, look at it, this is it. It helps. But it's unmaintainable. It is a huge JSON structure. Then if you change your HTML, the selector will break. So it's not really, it's nothing that you can use to write tests, for example, or something like this. This JSON structure is hard to maintain. Let's say it as it is.
Gotcha. Okay.
But beautiful to save a lot of time. And you can download it in different formats. You can say, I want to export that as Cypress test or as a Playwright test, and I can download not the JSON structure, but really the tests itself.
Very cool.
Yeah.
How would I go about doing that? There are
plugins. So you can click the download button. It suggests 3-4 versions, and online you Google for plugins, and then you can search the Jest plugin, the Playwright plugin, the Cypress plugin.
Cool. Is that this button right here? It looks like it's called Save Profile. Is that what?
It's not in the Performance tab. It's in the Recorder tab.
Okay, I see. Okay.
So here, if you click, here.
Right there. Okay, cool.
You can even download the Puppeteer replay script, right? And that executes the array of actions and runs it in Chromium.
I'm curious what this looks like. Let's see. I think it's downloading now.
We can look at the result. You can, I can share it later on my screen, but I still want to point out the flaw about that thing is always that you have this JSON object in the background. Even if you can automatically export Cypress tests, if you change your application, you release a new version, the HTML changes, the selector changes, and boom, it breaks. So, or the interactions, or like you change the UX, and it is like having plain JSON interactions without reusability and maintainability is nothing that will end up in a enterprise grade setup.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is building the bridge slowly to UFOs.
Yes. So what is UFOs? I imagine UF is user flow.
Yes.
What is O?
So the O is a object, a user flow object, and maybe to get there, I will quickly share some slides.
Sure.
And bring us to the point where we try to understand what a user flow is and what that new feature is.
Sounds great. Let's see. There we go.
Is the screen shared?
Yes, you can see it now.
So here's a quick overview of what you can export. But I want to show you.
Okay, so Michael, the thing we were looking at before, that was actually a user flow. Yes.
The thing that we looked at before were user interactions recorded, and if you use it with the mindset of a user journey that you click and test specific functionality, right? Then you have a user flow that is now defined in a JSON structure, and that's what is a user flow. But when we think about Lighthouse, you had no chance to have a user flow before in Lighthouse. With the recorder, you can replay that and you have the full interaction, do the login, log out. With Lighthouse, it was not possible. So what we had with Lighthouse before, I'm skipping the full screen mode. We had just this one button here, this one mode, navigation, which was the default mode. And what we get out is the stuff that we looked before. We had one panel, one times big numbers, one result for every single category. And it is amazing. I mean, this was essential for web performance in the last years, but it had a flaw. Nowadays, metrics, if you watch what Core Web Vitals are doing and so on, you have cumulative layout shift, largest content full paint, maybe gets small changes. You have I and P, a metrics, same as CLS, that is also here at runtime, not only when you bootstrap. So you have this initial navigation, and after that you are screwed because you cannot tell really automatically how your app is doing.
Right.
Especially with performance, not only other things like accessibility and stuff. And this is what where user flows come in. User flows, it was a release in Chrome 02, I believe. Now we have 16. It was firstly released, and before that, I even spotted it in the open source repository as plain JavaScript library, not integrated in Chrome. And what it does, it helps us with two new measurement modes to understand runtime performance. The part of your application metrics and measures it, that is way more important because it is way bigger. The time you navigate is one time, the time you spend there and use it is all the other time, right? So, and we have the navigation that can start and stop. We have a time span that can start and stop, but is not as detailed as a navigation. It has some user interactions, opening a form, typing in some content. And then we have snapshot, very interesting one. If you do accessibility things, you open up a pop-up, right? You have this popover that was not here before. And in that popover is a form, and you want to have that form accessibility. It's not so easy to test it at the moment. With snapshots, you can like do some interactions before and then do a snapshot of that stuff and analyze it.
I like that.
Yes, sorry.
You're good.
I need to team my energy.
No. You're hitting us on multiple senses.
So we have that here in Lighthouse, and you can open up your Lighthouse. You will see you have three measurement modes here: navigation, time span, and snapshot, and they are good for more or less different things.
I see.
I have a quick overview. I can share later on what exactly it is good for. I don't want to waste too much time here on this. We have only like 28 minutes left, and we have some miles to go.
Yeah.
So in this user flow, I can run a new one. I can make a time span and a snapshot, but still I cannot automate it. Here I can click that button. I can do stuff, of course.
Yeah. But this is a very manual process. And interestingly too, so this is something I noticed just looking at your screen versus mine, because I audited or did the Lighthouse audit for nx.dev. My performance came back as 87. I was noticing on your screen, it was just saying 92. So
it is maybe depending on how many runs I do. Like,
I see.
I click here on plus. I only do performance and best practices. If I do everything,
I see.
More, they have a little bit of impact. No, it is broken. Uh-oh, that's not good.
We broke the Chrome Dev Tools.
It's okay, it's okay. But we have these three new measurements, but also same as the other tool, the recorder, not fully integrated and combined and automated. You know, you have these manual things. And what I thought about all the new tools that are coming up back then was there should be a CLI to combine all those things and helps me to write this tool, these automated tests against modern requirement. I call it modern requirements, right? Some years ago, expectations on a software were different in terms of best practices, performance, accessibility. Now, especially in Europe, big changes with accessibility. In 2025, there are new laws in Germany and other countries, and you have to have that, right? So
yeah, well, I mean, looking at the way I've used Lighthouse in the past too, it was like I would do it when I happened to think of it. Versus if we could do something where it's automated via a CLI tool where you can say, hey, I've pushed new code up. Did this impact our performance? Does this impact our accessibility? I don't know at the moment, unless I have a CLI tool or unless I happen to do the manual process of, running Lighthouse for that version of my application, which it seems like, is that where we're going in terms of figuring this stuff out?
So this is where we are going, and we will start with a little bit of plain JavaScript, and then obviously we wanna go to NX, because this is where the real power shows up. How fast and quickly you can manage everything. It's super sweet. I'm excited, as I said at the beginning.
Awesome. I'll look forward to it. Shout out to Nacho here, another NX champion, and Evgeny talking about PWAs here. So yeah, I agree with Evgeny in principle here. I still don't know if PWAs even matter, but it's my own personal take.
It depends on the type of your app. They can, especially for offline stuff, do good things. If you have a static content website, you can benefit a lot. You can cache all the websites locally. It will always work for them, no matter if they have internet or not. But it's not any type of app that benefits from a progressive app, obviously.
Gotcha.
Okay, let me try to get that going, because I see the time is passing. So we have the navigation, and it has everything in all these audits, all the metrics. We have time span, reduced numbers. You see only 3 instead of the 6 here, less audits, and here snapshot again, way less. And you see in the overview this 10 out of 10. So we have way less audits. Also, the informative audits are way less. Here we have 30, and here we have 16, and here we have none. So it differs quite a lot. But as I said, they have different meanings, and they are very good if you use them at the right spot.
Right.
So all this new stuff is out, and I'm like, we need a way in the future anyway to measure that. And I started to sit down, and one of the first things that I did is unifying how to configure a CLI that could run those tests, and have a little bit of thinking on how these tests could get combined. And I will show you the end result straight without any further info, and then we can go back. What is next? How did I get there? So this is what you can get out with the latest tool. It's just an image. So let me click to a real one. I ran that right before the session. You see at 5:30, and I click at it, and I see the initial navigation to the Movies app, the Angular Movies app, one of the Movies implementations for performance. At the moment, the fastest, but let's see. The fastest from the 3 major frameworks. Of course, there are not major frameworks that are way faster. But it's interesting, because this is a full Lighthouse audit, and if you look on the left side, you have more. In the summary, you can see a full navigation here, and then sub-audits with subgroups and numbers. Wow. You have here screenshots, and not only screenshots, but even small GIFs that show you the full time span of your interaction, not only a screenshot. And you can click, and you can zoom in and have the detailed audit for all the different things in your whole user journey. Here I test the navigation through the Movies app, from the overview page to a movie detail, to a character detail. Is that stuff working?
Right.
And that's one of the beautiful things that you can generate with these new tools. A really impressive and nice overview of a couple of user experience matrices that are not easy to track nowadays.
Gotcha.
So let's see what it takes to set it up. And it takes a lot normally because a lot of coding. So we wrote that CLI. And let me quickly go right in and start with the CLI here. It's user flow demo. I have no changes. So I have a completely fresh repository and I have a completely fresh NX repository. It's just here as a subfolder. Ignore that workspace folder, but the rest is pretty empty. And cool. I can run here npx push-based user flow. When did that happen? Here we go. Push-based NX user flow and then init. And then it should do something. It should ask me like, what is the URL I want to test? I can say https nx.dev, whatever. I can type something in. Where is the folder I want to store my measures? I just accept it. I want to have an HTML format, a JSON format, and a Markdown format. Let's go. Store the measures here. Please set up an initial flow. Yes, let's do that. And boom, I have everything set up. You can see a user flow RC JSON file where you see your target URL and where your user flows are stored. And an initial user flow, of course, too. So you see, and this is, by the way, the Lighthouse version. The push Lighthouse user flow version.
Right.
With a lot of reduced code. So what you see here is the ultimate minimum. The rest is done automatically by the CLI. And it runs a navigation. I can zoom in and you can read that it runs from the flow.navigate. It's like an initial navigation. I could run that and I would generate an audit similar to this here. This is the first one, initial navigation, not the other.
So just taking us back into earlier in the stream, Michael, when we were doing, so sort of like when we hit the record button there, and I took my mouse and I clicked on it. What you're doing with that file is codifying the interactions that we're having with the website. Is that correct? Or
so you can do two different things. You can write it manually, and this is definitely JavaScript code that the CLI auto-generated, but I have to write that, and I can say page dot go to navigate, whatever, like a.
Yeah, I imagine you can do stuff like use a CSS selector to find an element and interact with that element.
You can do that. You can write it on your own, or and I want to go here. You can also. And let me jump down, use our recorder tool, and you can export your JSON recording. And with a one-liner, you put your JSON recording and execute that automatically. And you can add start time span, stop time span, end time span here. You see, enrich that, or even put it in the actions. We enriched the actions and we added custom actions so they can do the navigation, start, stop time span, snapshot.
Yeah. Very cool. So I guess I have options. I could like say almost like I'm running an end-to-end test, but maybe not writing assertions. I'm just programmatic. I'm driving my browser through the various corners of my app, and we can do things that way. Or we can do the recorder tool we just did and just export that as a JSON file and just say, hey, run this, and we can figure out things from there too. So cool.
So exactly, and let me point out again, the downside, all of the stuff that we saw is not enterprise ready, right? You cannot rely on a JSON file. What if you change stuff? Do you want to open up the recorder again and record everything again? Do you want to edit the JSON structure, like fiddle around in 7 different JSON structures? No. So we're slowly getting to the point where we say, okay, we are now able with this new CLI tool that we shipped to combine those new technologies, even with cool shortcuts here, but it is not fully maintainable and scalable. I want to show you another cool trick also here. because you said assertions, and there is something that's called budgets, performance budgets.
Oh, cool.
So you can say, I want to look at the number of HTTP requests, the downloaded kilobytes for CSS, for JavaScript, for images, for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Metrics is like largest contentful paint, CLS, all that stuff. You can set budgets, and only in the navigation they will assert. So it's good, it's really good, but only for the navigation. Again, limiting.
Right.
And I guess now we're getting to the point where we slowly can start to talk about the objects part, the user flow objects, and the whole philosophy on how to work with this toolchain and combine that stuff properly. Imagine you organize your code in a little more generic way, and I want to show you some code snippets. So what a normal programmer would do, he would start obviously with writing everything that it just works. So it will hard code. He will hard code. They will hard code the tests like this. They will wait for the selector. They will click that. If they are good in maintenance, they maybe add some prefixes and use some proper attributes for selecting the data stuff, right? So you could also have that here stored as a selector, better selector for testing reasons, that you don't mess around with your HTML structure. And then you have to write a lot of things. And if you think about that, and you write like 5 or 10 different tests for pages, you normally start to make reusable things. And what is a commonly known architecture pattern for testing? Page objects, right? What's his name? Martin Fowler, right? Martin Fowler, page objects, good old literature, lectures, books. And so obviously you start to organize the code here in user flow objects, and then it looks like this. You have your checkout form user flow object. You can open the order form. You can fill the checkout form. You can submit the order form. You know, like you have more wrappers around the building blocks in your different things.
Personally, Michael, I prefer just utility functions to page objects, but I think it's just subjective.
Some like let's ignore object-oriented programming. Some wrappers that are named and encapsulate interactions with your UI.
Yeah. I mean, it's scripting out, like sort of driving your browser. That's how I like to usually think of these things.
I search for this demo app in Vue that we use. Maybe it is here in the console. It's like every video that is recorded for Lighthouse from their team is using the same app. So we also used the same app.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was looking up. Let me share my screen real quick here. I was looking up Lighthouse while you were talking about stuff. And it looks like they're showing this Coffee's Cart app. I imagine that's the one. Yeah.
Yes, this app here, and obviously this you can test, you can select, you can do a little bit.
Cool. Let me switch back to yours again here. Okay, cool.
So you start to do that. This is a user flow object, and now we really have to speed up a little bit and get to the point because I want to do some live demos. But what you do is you lose the interoperability of systems, of testing tools, of everything, because any downside taken in account, how unmaintainable the JSON structure was back then, you can take that and transform it in any other tool, in any other language you want, right? So uncomparable good benefit if you compare it to the manually written implementation detail of this thing, where I again work with page.waitfor.selector. So what user flows really are, and in the next releases we'll get, is the API that looks like your how did you call it, that helper functions, page objects or your utility functions that wrap, that encapsulate that thing. But if you
Jenny agrees with me, by the way, Michael. Sorry, I've interrupted your train. Keep going.
No problem.
Keep going.
So if you run that stuff in the future, right, you will not execute the program. You will get spit out a JSON structure from your user object that is transferable in any language, and then you can run the user flow if you like it, create a separate test, whatever. But it is very general, and you can add your custom actions and wrap them with this start time span, stop time span, start navigation, stop navigation stuff.
Right.
That's pretty exciting. So let me show you in the demo that it works. The minimum thing I can run here, go away sidebar, not sidebar, but bottom snack bar, whatever you call it. And if I run collect, boom, it starts it runs that navigation, and it generates some measurements, and I can see them here. First, it obviously bootstraps, switches to a mobile display, runs that stuff.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just one measurement. You can do that. You can also 11 minutes left. You can also go more. You say, nice, I can automate that now. Let me write more of the tests and put it in my CI. And now we finally come to the good part of that show here, the NX part. I want to run that in the CLI. I want to integrate it in more scalable data structures in my mono repository, in many poly repositories. And then you can, of course, generate in it a GitHub action, -- GitHub action.
Cool.
Bam, and then you would have that file generated. It pops up here in your GitHub folder when this thing like syncs, and bam, you're there, and it executes automatically in your CI. And the last thing before I get to the NX integration, I pull out Eddie Osmani's repository on the movies apps. Here is our movie app. Here our colleague Voito, also GDE, that helps me work on the performance improvements. And here we have an integration. This is fully NX, really nice setup of different deployments. And we have here open and closed PRs. And if I just go to one of the closed PRs, we should see, no, this failed. Let me go to one.
Yeah. Let's get one with a green check.
Yeah, let's see a green check. So we should see a couple of code changes, yada, yada. And then boom, a user flow here in a markdown format, just the navigation to test the emulation of my Cloudflare stuff, right? So I cannot access the file system in Cloudflare, and a couple of Angular plugins would need the file system. I need to fix it here. A end-to-end test for that aspect. I have server-side rendering tests. Is the HTML already present in my request or not? And then I have a Firebase emulation, and then, of course, the full functionality. And interesting here is this small lock. So if I open that budget thing, normally, if I don't have dry runs, I would see here a lot of numbers. Let me try to get one with real numbers. Maybe this one. Let's hope the best for the demo here. Yes. So here you have all the charts, how much kilobyte it fetched, how much images it fetched, and so on and so forth. And I can like budget that stuff, and I can also assert that in my CI. But setting that up everywhere, scalable, enterprise grade, you need a little bit more than just my generate GitHub and generate action from the CLI. You need, and now I finally can say it, a proper NX plugin for that, right? So you need an NX plugin. Otherwise, your life is not beautiful. And I can open up now. Let's check the time. Let's have 5 minutes left for ramping up in questions.
Yeah.
I can open up now my workspace. It's a completely empty workspace. Yeah, that's the new pronunciation.
Space.
Workspace, yeah. The Austrian, Austrian.
What's in that glass, Michael? You got
that's gin tonic. No, just
okay.
kidding.
That's what I was guessing.
Soda with lime. And of course, coffee. Always cold coffee. It's the modern warm coffee.
Nice.
Okay, one app And I want to use an X plugin for user flows here, so I can say NX generate and then the package name and then init. Let's try a dry run. It seems I need to navigate in my workspace, obviously. Yeah. So in my workspace, it is also not working, and that makes me.
Do you not have NX installed globally? Because that should work if you did.
What
you probably need. You may need
no,
to
no,
just.
I have it not installed globally. You are so correct. Whatever.
You do npx, and that should do it.
Yeah, that should do the trick. Here we see. Let's remove the dry run now. It sets up my package JSON. It adds all the packages that I need to do that, and then I can say, let's generate a target, and let's do again a dry run first. To see if it is working. Yeah. So I got a question. What app? What's the URL? Maybe I want to have some like surf locally thingy. Boom. And what I get here is a perfectly sweet. So the dry run flag. Perfectly sweet setup. Let's default through it. Thing with my RC JSON file, but also with a brand new. Let me zoom in here. Target in my project, and
Beautiful.
I can execute user flow. I can now, without any like the coding and like setting up that plugin was beautifully simple, very straightforward, and very beneficial. Because look, I can just put here my configuration options, and I can say now let's do one for live, or let's do one for production. Right, so I can really start to leverage the power of an X. I have more generators. I can pull in the outputs. I can cache that stuff. I can hook into that. I can have my own executor. And this is really like no time left, right? Sorry, but it's the beautiful part on like building on the NX stack. If you would understand how little work that plugin was and how powerful you can now have co-located tests, have tests with budgets. You can like have different budgets files. You can compose that. That's pretty.
And then, like we can see, so you're using the that looks like IntelliJ, correct? That's not fancy VS Code. WebStorm. Well, yeah, I guess that's JetBrains.
Only.
I started with WebStorm, then I went to VS Code. And I'm not going back. But yeah, if you go back to WebStorm, you can see there's a nice green play button there, right by the user flows. So
yes.
I like that quite a bit. I like seeing there's a tab here too where you can just say, hey, what are my targets that I can run? You can just click on that as well.
Let me see if I have some slides left.
WebStorm.
User flow object stuff, we covered it. Yeah, I mean, I did everything, and the whole piece gives you like from a lot of code to nearly zero code, automated CI, and obviously with the NX plugin, really scalable and maintainable tests for something that is not on the market yet. So
Ania's here. Welcome, sir. Sending you the fire emoji, Michael. So yeah. It's very cool to see like all the stuff that we can do here, and like you're talking about like potential futures for NX. This is why I'm here, is because I see this potential future for NX where all these kinds of benefits and features and functionalities can be really easily integrated into people's like workflows without them having to do work goes that far outside of focusing on what they should be focused on, which is building their application.
I mean, if you pull a real life example, we had a client that got sued with because of some accessibility, tralala.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's definitely a thing. Here in the US, you can get sued a lot for that.
That's getting a thing, and we have a lot of examples already, like how you can tackle that. And one good thing is the last time we had that stuff, we just straightforward, without doing anything else, set up the our user flow thing with a couple of additional tests, and we covered like 70% right away in every PR before they even push it. There was no communication needed, and for the rest, we of course were sitting down, hands down, and fixing them our own. But the rest got like distributed over the plugin in the pipeline, and they fixed it with us together without a single meeting. That was pretty sweet.
Very cool.
Especially in bigger companies, imagine you have a
Well,
imagine you just have to like roll out an email to so many people and they have questions and browser.
Right. Well, it looks like we have one question I want to hit, but before we do, because we're running towards the end of our time, Michael, just want to say, echo El Theodore's comment here to say thank you for putting this together, coming on the show, and like just putting a lot of value out there for us to take advantage of. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you
too.
Rock, man. And sadly we could not show more integration with the plugin because the NX is really powerful, and this is like that really makes me excited in the future to write more tools on top of that stack. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here. We did have one question here from Athura.
Yes.
Can we create site tests directly from the JSON? So yeah,
you can pretty much everything that is on the market at the moment. Every 5 months there is a new plugin for some things.
Yeah. I definitely have noticed. I actually don't use these, but I've noticed there's the tools for like recording Cypress and like scripting it out into tests. Playwright has a similar tool. I imagine they're probably leveraging, if not the same thing, at least something very similar in order to do that. So
they most probably leverage the same thing.
Very cool. Well, cool, Michael. You rock, man. Thanks for coming by. We'll have to get you on again sometime if you build more functionality on top. Maybe we can set aside some more time to go a little deeper into this stuff, because very cool. I definitely see a lot of value.
We'll release it as official NX thing also on the website. It's not published there in the next days after the weekend. So exciting future.
Very cool. Well, Michael, we wish you the best with Pushbase. Looks like stuff's going well for you there. Definitely excited to see you succeeding here. And thanks again for the plugin. This is awesome.
Bye. Thank you.
You got it. See y'all.